Hey y'all, welcome back to Tater's Garden. I was coming out here today. We haven't had any rain for a while, and I was coming out here today. Hopefully I was thinking about tilling and planting some squash plants. But when I got out here, I was like, wow, this is really dry. And so I'm actually going to have to water, let it soak in for at least a few hours, and then try and do my tillage then. Basically, when I came out here, I found the first top couple inches of the soil, and the water test that I like to do is I'll squeeze the soil and let it go, right? And it should hold that clod that you squeeze, and then you drop it and it shatters. If it drops and it doesn't, and it goes plop and it's too wet. But it didn't even hold the clod, which means it's too dry. So I'm going to go ahead and water this area really quick, and hope that maybe we can come back out later and do some planting. Luckily, it kind of looked like, I was scratching around right there, it looked like it was really just the top couple of inches. But if I were to till it when it was overly dry, that would quite possibly destroy my soil structure. And it's actually more readily damaged from it being too dry than it is from it being too wet. So I've already done that in one spot of my garden. There's a spot over here. A few years ago, a friend of mine tilled, and I walked off while he was doing it. And then I came back later on, and he was still tilling, and I was like, "Hey, how you doing? And how many times have you done it?" And he's like 3 or 4, and he basically had mashed it into powder. So this year, that section is going to get transitioned into a back to Eden space, kind of rehab it. What I'm thinking. All right, so we're gonna let that soak in a little bit, and I was just thinking about everything I want to plant. I want to plant 4 rows of beans, 2 rows of squash, and I've got enough space here for 4 rows, but not for 2. So I'm going to go over here to this other half and do a little watering over there. So, and then I'm going to get things set up. I got to bring my transplants down, bring my seeds down, bring my seeder down, and might even go ahead and lay down the fertilizer before I even think about tilling. We'll see how it goes, particularly with walking on it to lay down the fertilizer and how it's feeling. I had some really bad crusting here because right after I planted these 2 rows that are kind of hard pan out through there, they were already planted with beans, and the beans didn't come up. And I think that was because right after the beans were planted, a torrential rain came and over crusted the space, and I've only got like 3 or 4 beans that came up in the whole row. And with all that water then, I didn't think that to water later, and then it was like a week, and then another torrential rain came, and I'm thinking that's what went wrong with that space. But yeah, there's like an inch thick crust here, so I'm not too surprised those beans didn't come up. Anyway, we'll get back with you as soon as the next phase of this planting thing's going on, and we'll see you then. All right, so we're back, and looks like the watering did just enough. I was a little leery, but after a little test tillage, it looks pretty good. And then I got my my measuring stick laid out. Let's go take a look at the fertilizer that I'm using and how I'm going to do that, and then we'll get this thing set up and get her done. All right, so the fertilizer that we're using is the fertilizer blend that I made up for the seed library. And if you're coming to the conference in May, we'll have this for sale. We're also donating the bag as a door prize. You can see it's got chicken litter, cottonseed meal, Tennessee brown rock phosphate, green sand fish meal, K-Mag, soft rock phosphate, and bone meal in there. And and fish meal, I forgot that, or did I not forget that? But we crunched the numbers. That's why it says calculated analysis. We didn't have it lab tested, but it's a pretty nice balanced organic fertilizer. So that's what we're using. I'm going to get a bucket of it set up and we'll start sprinkling it out. All right, so we got our fertilizer blend in our bucket. I got a little yogurt cup, and I'm going to lay out 1/2 or 2/3 of a yogurt cup wherever it is I want to put a plant. And then Sweeter's going to come along and drop a plant right around there. And then we plant them by hand and mix it all together. I'm not even using this stick. I'm trying for that 2.5 foot spacing that we talked about earlier. Yeah.
And then if it dies, I'll do the rest of it.
Okay. Got about half left, buddy?
Maybe slightly more than half.
All right. Okay, so then all I do is I walk down the row. I'll put my hand in where the fertilizer was. That helps it fall into the hole. I'll put my plug into that hole, and I can, let's look at the plug. So this first set of leaves here, they're called the cotyledons, or the seed leaves. I can plant the plant all the way up to them. I usually don't. I'll usually split the difference, but you can go all the way up, almost just under that first leaf joint. Okay, so that's it for those crookneck squash. That variety was called Early Prolific. I really like it. It's a little cool tolerant, even though it's not a cool spring here this year. And it sticks around for a long time. It has a nice longevity on it, even though it is an heirloom. So I can save the seeds on it, so that's another plus. All right, so we're gonna run the tiller a little more, and then we'll plant some beans. Alright, so I had to do a quick pass to the tiller to knock down a couple of weeds that had come back. The rest of that space over there, I tilled it 10 days ago. We did a nice job getting it some compost laid down earlier this spring, and so that's why the soil looks so black, honestly. So I got my fertilizer here. You can see the post down there at the end. You can't see this post out of frame, but that's where the row for the first row of beans is going to be. I'm going to lay down a stripe of fertilizer. I hope I have enough that I can move my posts and do another stripe real quick. Then I'll run the tiller over that in a quick pass, and then we'll get the seeder out and push the seeder down the row. Done. All right, here goes. All right, so that's that. The beds are ready. The seeder that we're using, Earthway. It comes with a variety of plates. Sorry about that. It comes with a variety of plates that you can switch out in there. We have the bean plate in there, of course. This is the bean we're planting, is called Provider. It's a bush bean, does really good in the springtime, though it already feels like summer here. And my buddy Tony said it was his money maker, so that's really, well, the whole story is, honestly. When I first started growing and we were talking back and forth about what are you growing of this, what are you growing of that, he told me what bean he was growing, and then he immediately said, I don't want you growing that bean. And I never did, never grew it. And so now that Tony's retired, I get to grow his bean. But it's got a pretty purple seed, and it makes a nice green bean, really great green bean. All right, and the way this thing works is it plops the seeds down. There's a little depth gauge on it. Here's my row, and they're chained. Push them in. Really simple. So the forecast tomorrow is for rain around noon. So I'm not even going to bother with watering these in tonight, because it's like a 90% chance of rain. It's supposed to rain most of the day. I'll come out here and peek at those squash plants to make sure they don't look wilted. If the squash plants look wilted, I'll definitely give them some wand water with the hose. I do need to set up drip irrigation for all these spaces. Sometimes with things like beans, they're mature in 60 days, and I can only pick them for 2 or 3 weeks. So 75 days. If I can get away with not putting out water for them, then I do. But this year is feeling like last year, and I'm going to have to put out water for everything. Alrighty. So anyway, hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up and share the videos, and check out the giveaway video if you haven't already. We'll talk to you again soon.